HOA Karen. Cut the police fiber line. My 4-minute federal response shocked everyone. If you think your HOA is bad, wait till you meet Karen. She wasn't just nosy, she was reckless. When she cut the fiber line running through our neighborhood, she thought she was stopping construction noise. What she actually did was cut off the police station's network during an active operation. But here's the twist. She had no clue I was the lead network engineer for the state's emergency communications system. 4 minutes later, I rerouted everything through a federal backup network, and what happened next made her regret every snip of that cable. Before I tell you what went down, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because this story is one for the books. I had moved into Lakewood Hills, a clean, organized, and frankly too perfect neighborhood, just 6 months before this whole mess began. As a senior network engineer working for the state's Department of Public Safety, I mostly kept to myself. My work was critical, maintaining digital links between police stations, emergency services, and federal systems. But there was one person who didn't seem to like me, or anyone who didn't fit her idea of the perfect neighbor. Her name was Karen Peterson, the self-appointed watchdog of the HOA. She didn't just follow rules, she lived for them. She'd take pictures of improperly parked cars, measure fence heights, and even fine people for leaving trash bins out 10 minutes too long. When construction started near the neighborhood's communication hub, a small underground fiber relay box that connected the city's west side to emergency systems, Karen was furious. She thought the construction was messing up her view and claimed the noise was disturbing her meditation sessions. What she didn't know was that the construction was part of a scheduled upgrade, an upgrade I was overseeing remotely to reinforce emergency bandwidth for the local police station. One Friday afternoon, I got an alert on my phone. Fiber link degradation detected, Sector 12A. That sector ran straight through Lakewood Hills. Within minutes, I saw a full disconnect. Someone had physically cut the line. The timing couldn't have been worse. The city police were running a live operation involving a missing child. The command center relied heavily on real-time network feeds, maps, location trackers, communication with field officers. And suddenly, their connection went dead. I immediately went into damage control mode. I jumped into my truck and sped toward the relay hub inside our neighborhood. As I turned the corner, there she was. Karen, standing proudly beside 2 landscapers, a pair of garden shears still in her hand. She looked up at me and smiled. "Oh, hi, Mark. You'll be happy to know I stopped those noisy workers. They were digging near that ugly green box. I told them it's against HOA policy to tamper with neighborhood property." My jaw dropped. "That ugly green box," I said, trying to stay calm, "is a government-owned communication node. You didn't just stop workers, Karen. You just severed the network that connects the police department to their dispatch servers." Karen blinked, not quite processing it. "Oh, don't exaggerate. It's just internet, isn't it? Internet." My blood boiled. She had no idea how much damage she'd just caused. I quickly pulled out my laptop from the truck and tethered into a mobile hotspot. Sure enough, Sector 12A was completely offline. The fiber line was sliced clean through. Every second counted. In the world of network operations, even a few minutes of downtime can cause chaos. But for emergency services, it could cost lives. I knew I had to act fast. I radioed in to the operations center. "This is Mark in Lakewood Hills. We've got a total cut in the primary link. I'm initiating the federal backup protocol." The voice on the other end replied, tense and sharp. "Copy that. Command reports total blackout on Police Central. You've got 4 minutes before we lose field visibility. 4 minutes. That's all I had." I flipped open my emergency access terminal, authenticated with my federal ID, and began rerouting data traffic through the National Resilience Network, a classified backup web designed for disaster recovery. The process wasn't simple. It required encryption handshakes, signal rerouting through multiple states, and validation from the Federal Exchange. Every keystroke mattered. Meanwhile, Karen kept talking. You know, I'm the HOA president. You really should have consulted me before putting such an eyesore in our neighborhood. I ignored her, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Sweat dripped down my forehead as the timer in my head ticked away. Then, success. The terminal blinked green. The link was reestablished, this time through a federal channel. I ran diagnostics. The police station's live feed came back online. Total downtime, 3 minutes, 52 seconds. Lakewood sector restored, I reported. Backup network engaged. Operation can continue. Cheers erupted over the comm line. But my relief didn't last long. Because next, the federal system kicked in its security response. Within 20 minutes, 3 black SUVs rolled into the neighborhood. The FBI's Cyber Infrastructure Division. They weren't there for me. They were there for the person responsible for tampering with federal communication lines. And that person was standing right in front of her white porch, sipping lemonade, still complaining about unsightly boxes. Agents approached her calmly. Ma'am, are you the homeowner at 17 Willow Drive? Yes, I am. Is there a problem? She replied, with that signature tone of superiority. Yes, ma'am. There's a serious problem. You're being questioned in connection with the willful destruction of federal infrastructure. That's a felony. Karen nearly dropped her glass. Wait, what? I just told the workers to leave. One of the agents pointed toward the cut line. And used your own garden tools to finish the job, according to witnesses. Do you have any idea what you've done? Her face turned pale. The FBI agents documented everything, took photos, and confiscated the shears as evidence. I watched quietly from across the street. Karen's usual smug expression was gone. Her voice trembled. But I didn't know, she pleaded. That doesn't change the fact that you interfered with critical infrastructure, an agent replied. You're lucky it was restored quickly. If this had led to an operational loss, we'd be talking years in prison. They didn't arrest her on the spot, but they did issue her a federal citation and investigation notice. That's worse than any HOA fine she'd ever handed out. For once, the entire neighborhood was silent. Everyone had seen Karen's downfall, and I could feel their collective sigh of relief. Over the next few weeks, Karen's reputation collapsed faster than the fiber line she cut. The HOA board held an emergency meeting where she was voted out unanimously. She tried to argue that she didn't mean to do harm, but no one wanted to hear it anymore. Meanwhile, I was called into the governor's office, virtually, of course. They commended my quick action, saying my 4-minute reroute likely saved a police operation from total breakdown. I received a commendation for emergency network restoration under federal protocol. It felt good, but honestly, I wasn't proud. I was angry. All of it could have been avoided if one person had just respected boundaries and asked questions before acting. A month later, I got a knock on my door. It was Karen. Her face was pale and she looked human for once. I came to apologize, she said softly. I didn't understand what that equipment was. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. I never meant for it to go that far. I sighed. Karen, I get it. But sometimes protecting something means understanding it first. You almost brought down an entire emergency network. She nodded, eyes downcast. I learned my lesson. I promise. From that day on, Karen kept a low profile. She stopped policing people's lawns, stopped peeking through curtains, and started minding her own business. And as for the rest of us, Lakewood Hills became quieter, friendlier, more connected, literally. Every time I'd drive past that newly reinforced fiber relay box, now protected by steel fencing and federal signage, I'd smirk a little. Because while Karen had tried to cut the line of control, she'd ended up cutting her own power instead. Power without understanding is dangerous. Whether it's an HOA, a person, or an entire system, respecting what you don't fully grasp can prevent chaos. So next time someone starts meddling in things they shouldn't, just remember, some lines should never be crossed.